Hey guys, this is the Ekron Writer here, welcoming you to the final chapter of Body of Dark, Heart of Light. And you can tell with the song I just played, things are really gonna start to go down. Cause you know with Trans Kuja's theme, he doesn't mess around. Alright, last time. Cecil has just encountered his brother Golbez for the first time, inside a special section in Dissidia, known as the Giant of Babel, where the pipes, if broken, release content resembling, poison, uh, ice, fire, gusts of wind from each of the four archfiends. Which, if you played Final Fantasy IV, you should know this. So, Golbez has actually reasoned with Cecil because somehow he hesitated on killing him, as he noticed there was something peculiar about them. And, well, they turned out to be brothers, actually, and they're kind of dealing with the same fate. They were summoned to Dissidia against their own wills, and they tend to have a personal battle between dark and light, which with Golbez, it's darkness consuming his heart because he doesn't know light. Thus, he has no hope in retrieving it. But he actually has hope with his brother Cecil because he still has a pure heart as long as he doesn't get consumed by the darkness too much. He has hope because he can balance the two and hopefully bring hope to other warriors to end this eternal conflict between Cosmos and Chaos. But there is still Kuja, though. And Kuja was the one manipulating Cecil to begin with before Chaos. So, good luck, Cecil. Alright, we're on the final chapter, Chapter 7. Well, everyone, we're finally here. We went through 6 enduring chapters. Thank you all so much for following this story and waiting very patiently. But now, we're ready to rock and roll. We finally made it to the last chapter. I promise you all that this final segment will knock your socks off and reveal the true purpose of Chaos's Dark Crystal in Cecil's nightmare. But enough small talk. Let's finish this. Peace is but a shadow of death, desperate to forget its painful past. He was standing in the center of a massive and magnificent crystallized platform. Surrounding it were other platforms shaded orange, pink, white, and even purple. Rocky ledges formed the underbelly, hovering over a thick, misty pit. He pensively looked up at the gloomy gray sky while a crystal was shown in a gigantic rotating ring and shining its eerie light. The place was known as the Crystal World, and to some as the Plane of Death. And while the moon as a fickle shines blue, by dawn it'll turn to a scarlet hue, as chaos reigns over this pitiful, fragile world. Kuja looked at a crystal he held in his hands. He'd been ambitiously waiting for his puppet to show. He knew this would be the moment for Cecil to fall into discord and wreak havoc once more. Kuja! Just then Cecil faced him as determined as ever. Well, well, another magnificent act, I presume. I will defeat Chaos, and I'm here to destroy you. The Genome still showed a straight face. Defeat Chaos, you say? He is the god of discord. He shall never be defeated by the sniveling likes of you. But rather than an enemy, you shall become his pawn of ultimate destruction. What? No. It was just what he feared and saw in his dream. Chaos was holding a dark crystal which took control of him. Now Kuja had the same one. Even though no one could see it, Cecil felt its dark energy emitting from it, seeping into his soul. The curtains have closed and doused the light. Now they rise to this new fate. Cecil's time is already over. Cecil sunk to his knees, feeling as numb and as dazed as before. He thought he was only being manipulated by his own urges when turned into a Dark Knight, but that particular crystal seemed to have intensified the effect. Your feeble brother shared the same fate. He lost his will to the dark abyss of malice. But you know what they say. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And now you shall join him as brothers in crimson blood. His body began to shiver, only this time it was pure rage rather than fear. His eyes became dead, but menacing, and he gritted his teeth as he drank the anguish. He became stronger, more bold, and he cared for nothing as his heart was stirred with hatred, malice, and power. Just then, Cain, Furion, and Yuna saw him change, only a few feet away from the battlefield. Everyone became shocked that he was rampaging again. Then he heard chaos echoing in his mind. The light no longer shines within you. Succumb to the darkness and taste true discord. You serve me. His body rapidly changed into the menacing Dark Knight that Chaos and Kuja longed for. He let out a war cry which was almost similar to a dragon's. I wish I had the sound effect for that. Cecil, no! Yuna gasped at the sight of his metamorphosis. Kuja's with him! We have to make plans to stop him! But Furion wasted no time. He immediately shoved past his teammates and leapt into the air, drawing a light arrow. Furion! Yuna tried to go after him and Cecil, but Cain held her back. The arrow was shot, but it missed its target just by a hair. It whizzed past Kuja like it was only a puny fly. He grinned at Furion's effort. You're so foolish trying to bring this act to a screeching halt. Ironically, this is only the prelude. What are you doing to him? Oh, it's already been done. Graciously pointed at Cecil, who had just completed his transformation. The malicious knight pointed his Deathbringer directly at his victim. No, you can't! His face grew pale as he started to back away. He was shocked at what he had become. How can he turn on me like this? Your master is here, Pawn. He was only the intermission last time. Now it just became the overture. Let the show commence once more with your requiem of death. Take him out! He snarled and leapt toward the unsuspecting weapon master. He instantly put up his Ragnarok to block the blow. The clang rang in both of their ears. Neither of them were backing down. They parted, and Furion tossed out his electric whip. But Cecil was too quick, slicing it in two. He lunged at him again, then Furion jumped up and casted Blizzard. 3 chunks of ice descended toward him. Normally, the frigid projectiles would have smacked the opponent to the ground, but the Dark Knight bashed right through them. With the ice shattered, he landed on a crystal pillar. Cecil soared and Furion shot another light arrow, missing his target. He persisted a few more times, but Cecil dodged them with ease. He wound up behind him and knocked him down toward the hard rocky terrain below. Stunned by the pain in his betrayal, he could barely stand up. Cecil used his finishing move. He stabbed through Furion's chest and drained his energy until he fell. In the process, Furion saw a glimpse of Cecil's malice beneath the dark armor. He then remembered what Eunice said. Is there still hope? Is there still hope? Can Cecil break out of the darkness and retrieve the light again? He doubted it as his own light began to shed. He fell back when the process was done. He gazed through his armor and saw sapphire, though evil eyes, and said on his last breath, Chaos shall never rule this world. It must strive like the wild rose, and never be wedded. Don't fail, Cosmos. Never let the darkness destroy the Cecil in you. Blackened out and became very still. Furion! We should rid of him. Let's go! Cain led the way as they ran to their fallen comrade. Instead of feeling remorse, he became more powerful. After absorbing Therian's life into him, Cecil emitted a roar of triumph. Though something was toggling his mind. He held his head as he had voices and images flashing before his eyes. Of Cosmos, Yuna, his brother. Hear me, warrior. You are unique. A lot of people would be fooled by a person's looks. Let go of your powers. With patience and acceptance of who you are, you shall prevail. How can darkness overcome chaos? Taste the power of discord. He's proven himself as a warrior of light. I have friends who believe in me. You won't you won't have the urge to fight. You're not alone. He felt his mind was beginning to shatter. Something deep within his heart started to stir and course through his soul. The vow with his friends helped him from being inept. His strength was driven by their support along with the light both he and Cosmos possessed. It was that relaxation that Cecil finally broke free. As he cleared his mind and held on to the truth, he transformed into the glorious paladin again. His eyes returned to their normal shade and the cries stopped. Flabbergasted and enraged, Kuja held weakly onto the dark crystal. No! Impossible! How can the madness within be broken? Cecil stood up slowly and said, Something that I learned from my trials. The mind may be tainted by evil means, but as long as the heart remains, nothing can change a person's will. I have friends who believe in me. They're the guidance and strength that I need. And where would those friends come from, pet? Your memories? Your putrid life? You had none since you got here. Memories are remnants of farce play of the mind. They are nothing but fragments of the demented soul, and friends are no better. Friends are only facades who are used to cover their own weaknesses, and shed nothing but nauseating pity. You're wrong! The meanings of friendship and memories are what keeps us together, to keep fighting, and to hold something we protect. Something to protect? That fragile empty shell? Such useless recklessness. Serve me in chaos and death instead! The dark crystal emitted dark energy again, leaving Cecil helpless upon its spell. He held on to fight it as he remembered what everyone taught him. Even though he can remember nothing in his home world, he still has the lessons he learned here. Friendship, courage, fortitude, virtue, they were all there. While Cecil was paralyzed, Kuja gathered magic energy and formed it into a gigantic fiery sphere. It was known as one of his powerful moves, the Flare Star. As it grew bigger and brighter, he eventually tossed it towards Cecil. Unable to move, he can only brace for the worst and pray to survive it. He can't possibly let his friends down. He can't let Cosmos down. In a flash of light, the central crystal platform shattered. The magnitude tossed Cecil to the ground below. However, he was down, but not out yet. He barely rose and held his chest in excruciating pain. He wished he would have been dead so he wouldn't suffer through it. Then, blue light imbued him. It began to sparkle just as he felt very warm. No pain whatsoever. Finally learned how to cure himself. His stupefaction didn't last, as he still had a battle to finish against Kuja in his trance. Then he realized his true potential. I'm a paladin. I am a dark knight. In order to become one with myself and my nemesis, I shall become two. He stood up with a new pride he never had before. I must accept who I am. Utilizing the dark crystal's prowess, he transformed into a dark knight, this time willingly, and immediately afterward he used his dark flame directly at it, shattering it into smithereens. Dark Wave! The stunned Genome looked down at his empty hand. This can't be happening! Chaos said that these crystals could give his messengers unstoppable prowess that not even Cosmos could match. Made by Shinryu himself, to manipulate the weak and prevent disappearance upon defeat. How could it possibly fail? His hands clenched into menacing, shaking fists. Upon his inexperience and rage, he declared as he descended, "That's it! Time to put an end to this!" He gathered more energy as Cecil looked up at his opponent. With his newfound strength, he soared up and stood next to Kuja. The weak lose their freedom and will to the strong. Such is the way of the strong. And it's the providence of nature that only the strong can survive. That is why I needed this unfathomable strength. Cecil realized that Kuja was one of the more weak and competent ones. As an experimentation, Chaos gave Kuja the Dark Crystal, and they both knew who to use it on to have an advantage in the eternal conflict. However, his plan failed. Now Kuja wants to destroy Cecil in battle to make him suffer and fall into the dark abyss. The moon is but a fickle calling to the darkness. Your eloquence is misplaced, and I shall obtain victory! While Trance Kuja charged straight to Cecil as a Dark Knight, he used his gravity ball to hammer him to the ground. Because he was in trance, the Genome had more immense power, much like Cecil with the Dark Crystal. Since it was now gone, he had the advantage instead. Kuja jumped and slammed with his remote flare, soaring Cecil into the air. He then charged up and attacked him head-on with his strike energy. Cecil regained his inner strength and turned him into a paladin. He aimed an energy orb straight at him and performed some aerial slices before he slammed Kuja with his paladin force. That is one of the most awesome moves from Cecil, especially as a paladin. I always liked that move. This is how a honing attack should be done, by the way. Better than Sonic's in 06. Mist burst apart as Kuja soared again, nearly knocking Cecil. He avoided it and landed on the ground, turning into a Dark Knight once more. He attempted to slam Kuja with his gravity ball, which missed. Then he used his dark flames as projectiles to attack him from a distance. They hit Kuja on contact, but he immediately shook them off and countered with Flare Star. He got caught in it, which made him descend to the unforgiving terrain. He instantly changed into a paladin, which made him land gently. He noticed that in this form, his attacks were quicker, versatile, and powerful. He bashed through the crystal pillars and closed in on the Genome. They both faltered after they connected simultaneously. Kuja hurriedly used Force Symphony. Cecil avoided it, spun, and slashed him using radiant wings. To the sky! Fleeting blade! He then chased him as he used Searchlight. Moon transfix you! Which Kuja blocked with his own power. He then used Seraphic Star, which critically wounded him and sent him to the ground, panting. Strength was leaving him, and he knew he had to end this fight. Fast. Deep within his soul, he heard his friends' voices again. We're here for you, Cecil. You are our last hope. You can do it. Save us. We believe in you. Keep fighting. End this conflict for everyone. As he heard the End this conflict for everyone. As he heard the voice from Cosmos, he instantly felt warm inside. Just then a golden aura surrounded him, and he felt his energy increase within each minute. Kind of like the Dark Crystal's influence, but less poisonous and more soothing. My allies are with me. I know my course. Kuja used Snatch Blow, causing them to go into a chase. They each charged up their weapons and magic, but they just kept missing. Eventually, Cecil was able to make Kuja more vulnerable after each hit. Then he charged his blade and sent Kuja flying and making the world dissolve. That's right, it's his EX burst. Everything went black, and only Cecil and Kuja were seen in the empty void. His aura shone brighter as he gathered energy. This will seal it! The moon leads me! For the love of his friends and for the goddess of harmony, his hands formed a cross. Then his Deathbringer and Excalibur appeared, and he grabbed them both. He switched into a Dark Knight which had the same amount of malicious energy as it did before. He charged and hit Kuja directly and fired some orbs. Light and darkness cast aloft! He instantly changed back and performed 2 slashes which made a cross. And after that light show, Kuja floated in the air for a few seconds. He was surrounded in the same golden aura until the battlefield returned to normal. Then he descended toward the gigantic center pillar and yelled at the top of his lungs, "No!" Everything was back the way before the battle started, and Cecil slowly descended next to Kuja, who turned back into his normal form. Ugh, dang scrolls. Ugh. He was soon panting heavily in a kneeling position as dark waves emitted from him. Cecil noticed that it was Kuja who was about to disappear, much like all the mannequins he had fought during his journey. Somehow he only felt pity for him. No! Why should the world exist without me? That cannot be fair. If I die, then so would all of you. The somber paladin sadly closed his eyes. I understand that some must live and others must die. A friend of mine knew what it meant. He made that sacrifice once. How can this be? I am the angel of death. I'm the bringer of slaughter and discord. I should never die. Cecil still stayed composed as he ranted. We cannot live forever, no matter how much we wanted to. And even if we did, would it be worth having? In his disbelief, Kuja smiled. I have nothing left to fear. I won't be afraid anymore, but I will not die alone. You shall all join me. He at last faded as the dark energy lifted into nothingness. Cecil took a deep, soothing breath. The fight was over between not only him and his enemy, but his internal conflicts as well. He no longer felt driven by his negativity because he had something to strive for his friends, for his brother who gave him sound advice, and for his duty on ending Furion! His eyes shut open as he remembered what he'd done. In his rage, he drained his light from within. He can't disappear the same way Kuja did. He was his friend. He just couldn't let this happen. As fast as the wind could carry him, he hurriedly ran down the massive crystal pillar to Keen and Yuna below. The duo tried using their potion and phoenix down, which were hard to find, but sadly with no result, as what Cecil feared, Furion's body started to disintegrate in a white light. They looked as they saw Cecil desperately running up to them. He knelt down and saw the terror. Can't go like this. There must be something I can do. How did I... Cecil! How could you do this? I may have done sinful things in the past, and so have you. This is by far the worst. Clearly he was right. He did let this happen. We couldn't cure him, and it's too late to bring him to Cosmos. If only someone could give his own energy to him. Maybe. Yuno's trying to hold back her tears. I can. They both looked up petrified. You must. He's fading fast. He can't last much longer. If Dark Knights take away and absorb people's lives, maybe Paladins give it. Of course, it's a polar opposite. Oh wait. You must. He's fading fast. He can't last much longer. If Dark Knights take away and absorb people's lives, maybe Paladins give it. Of course, it's a polar opposite. I can give his light back. Trust me. They both reluctantly nodded as he performed the ritual. He had laid a hand on his heart and took soft breaths as he shut his eyes. There was a very weak pulse, no heartbeat, and a slight rise and fall of his chest. All his thoughts and feelings shifted to Firion. How a good friend he was to him, how much they'd shared, including his dream, how they devoted themselves to end the conflict and protect Cosmos. His reverie was halted as Firion's body became more paler and immobile. His pulse began to stop and his breathing was slowly diminishing. Cecil's eyes squeezed as he noticed what was transpiring. He could never forgive himself if he were to lose him now, especially if it was from his own actions. His hand pressed down on his chest as he felt all his feelings and light energy descend into him. He poured all his physical and emotional strength into him like a current. If he would give him enough, he wouldn't have to die. The eerie light disappeared as it was being replaced by an aura similar to Cosmos's. Tina and Yuna watched in awe as he concentrated harder. The light began to shine brighter on Cecil's hand and Firion's lifeless body, until it faded. The paladin felt very lightheaded and empty. He held his forehead as he moaned and slowly opened his eyes. It was as if he was awoken abruptly from a very deep sleep. Firion's hand began to twitch as he stirred. By the time he finally returned to consciousness, Cecil's dizziness passed. The dragoon and the summoner gathered close to him. Firion slowly opened his eyes. His vision was very blurry at first, but then the glare was gone as his eyes cleared. He saw Cecil, Kane, and Yuna look over him, all smiling. He felt relieved that they were all safe, especially Cecil, who was no longer malevolent. He felt his light as if he was being revived, like as if he gave his to him. Firion, you all right? Cecil, I'm... He looked at himself, realizing he wasn't dead, nor dreaming. Yes, I'm fine. Thank you. He realized that the paladin was himself again. He was no longer being manipulated by Chaos's will. He'd seen and retrieved the light at last. You no longer have darkness within you. He shook his head with a frown. No, I still do harbor the darkness. But, as he raised a hand, dark matter emitted from his palm. I can now control it. I can willfully change in between them, when I must. But why? Why do you still possess the power of darkness? Both the light and the darkness give me strength. Everyone looked at him as he explained what his brothers said. Golbez, my brother, he said that no one is born black nor white. We all have both good and evil inside us, and we have the will whether or not to use them. I see now that how we came to this world or our worlds is irrelevant. Whether it's birth, summon, or creation, the choices we make dictates our own destinies, our decisions, our futures. It is what we do with these choices that determines who we are. I see. Since when are you so philosophical? A body of dark with a heart of light. Intriguing. Firion and the others set up. Let's go. We all should head back to Sanctuary. I'm certain that Cosmos is waiting for us. Indeed. One adversary has been defeated, but there are still many to overcome, physically or not, Firion concluded as he studied him who was still weary. They walked together with the moonlight night in the rear. Then he stopped and looked at the crystal in the sky. I will end this conflict. Cosmos, brother, and my friends, thank you. I am no longer alone. His ability to harness both light and darkness in addition of the support of his friends and the determination of what he fights for. Nothing, not even the god of discord himself, would ever influence him again. With his newfound strength, he would not stop at ending the conflict, and someday he'll return somewhere he once belonged. Before I bid you all farewell, I'd just like to say thank you for everyone who has read, followed, reviewed, and above all enjoyed this fic. I would like to share some info with you. Remember in Dissidia that Kuja is usually treated as an inferior compared to the other warriors? Well, here, Chaos sort of gave him the leg up in the competition. The Dark Crystal. The God of Discord was fascinated and curious about Cecil and how he was able to change instantly during battle, especially as a Dark Knight. So he decided to take this advantage to manipulate a Cosmos warrior rather than just summon an endless horde of mannequins. Much like he did with Terra, Cloud, and Titus. Weird how he feels pity to one of his comrades, especially the fragile, incompetent Jeannot. Also, I thought I might throw in some references. Yes, this fic was based on a dream I had months ago, which is years ago, actually. There were also some very interesting concepts. Basically, it can refer to anyone whose mind gets warped and turned completely volatile. Such films as Spider-Man 3, Dragon Ball Evolution, and games like Pokemon Coliseum, XD Gale of Darkness, and even within the Final Fantasy series tend to use this dark trope as a pleasurable, tempting, and addictive power which gives a person strength and no fear. But as Cloud and Gobez said, darkness is not always evil. It is at first fearful, like a kid who's afraid of the dark, thinking that something is lurking in the shadows, waiting for the ambush. However, the darkness can be useful, as Gulbez said, there's no black or white, meaning that darkness can't vanquish evil, neither can the light unless it's used in combination with its opposite. Like both the light and dark crystals awaken the Giant of Babel or in the Mysidian prophecy, whereas Cecil wields both to defeat Zemus. As it states in Cecil's the X-Burst, lighting darkness cast aloft. The purpose of this fic, besides being centered on Cecil's coming to Dissidia, is to show that without darkness there can be no light. Hence it's why that it's not always malevolent. I seriously wish that the Dissidia franchise would eventually reveal his arrival and give him a much better role than the official quest, anyway. It was nice to include the origins of the warrior, but I always thought it was made too soon in ignoring the other characters. Thank you all so much for your support and encouragement. Well, that's it, guys. The short story is over, and I'm not sure what my next Final Fantasy project would be. But until then, this is the Ecron Writers signing out, and I hope you all enjoyed this short story about my all-time favorite character, Cecil Harvey. So, I'll see you guys next time.